Everyone, I hope you had a really good day. Today we have a special live training, which is going to be on superfood. So those are going to be food items that are really packed with your macronutrients, so protein, carbs, fat, and we're also going to talk about fiber and other micronutrients. So I'm just going to show you a little bit of an example of some food item that you could be adding into your diet. That's just going to make it so much easier to reach your target, to lose weight, to feel better, and to improve your performance, okay? So we're going to get started right away. I'm going to be sharing my screen, and there we go. So we're going to be talking about superfoods. So before we get started, I wanted to be really clear. Just because I have listed certain type of food, it doesn't mean that you can't have the result that you want without those food. It doesn't mean that you have to eat all of those all the time. It doesn't mean that if you really love certain type of food and it's not listed there that you can't eat it anymore. So this is just a reference to help you have a better diet and a better understanding of how you can reach your target. So we're going to get started with what are the food that could help you reach your macro the most, what are the food that will help you with your fiber intake, but we're also going to be talking about hormones. So there are certain type of food that you could be consuming that could help you when you get into premenopausal or menopausal state. So we're going to be talking about it a little bit later on, and what food that are packed with micronutrient could help you reach your goal. So let's start. We are getting started with protein. I think protein is always kind of like the first macronutrient that we're trying to set, that we're trying to reach our target. And that's why we're going to be starting with this one. So my favorite one is seafood. Okay. If you do not like seafood, that's okay. You can still reach your target with other protein options. But I do really love seafood because it's high in protein and really low in fat. I know that a lot of you have trouble actually reaching their protein target without busting their fat target. So that is a good way to go. Fish is also a really good option, high in protein and omega-3. All of the soy products. So the soy product I will tell you about are high in protein, low in fat, but there's a couple of soy products I will not show you today just because a lot of those, let's say like beans, lentil, all of those kind of like vegan protein option are actually packed with carbs and not so much protein. So there are protein inside of those beans, those lentil, but there are often more carbs than protein. So that's why we're not seeing them into the protein superfood. Seeds. So a lot of seeds will be really packed with protein, but also a lot of fiber, a lot of other micronutrients that are essential. And we're going to get into other type of meat that will be high in protein and low in fat. So just a couple of examples. Like I said, you don't actually have to eat all of those food. And if there's a food option that you really love and it's not in there, doesn't mean you can't eat it. But certain seafood options, shrimps, clam, mussel, crab, lobster, really high in protein, omega-3, and really low in fat. Fish options, so salmon, one of my favorite ones, cod, herring, mahi-mahi, sardine, tuna, really high in protein, really high in omega-3, really good option, and those soy products. So if you haven't tried it before, TVP, so it's texture vegetal, yeah, texture vegetal protein. So I buy mine at Bulk Barn. So it's kind of a derived product from the soy protein. Okay, so it kind of looks like ground beef. So you take it, you put 1 cup, let's say, of TVP, 1 cup of water, you put a little bit of beef broth or a little bit of vegetable broth if you want to go full vegan, and you just let it rest for 15 minutes. It's going to absorb the water, and then you just cook it like it would be ground beef. So you're never going to be able to do like beef patty with it. Like it's not going to stick together, but you can do kind of any other recipe that you would do with ground beef, but doing it with TVP instead. So you would really lower the fat content of your recipe, and it's going to be packed with protein, but also really good in fiber as well. So TVP, I strongly recommend you try it if you haven't tried it before. Tofu, tempeh, seitan, edamame. So those are the vegan option that will give you more protein than carbs. So like I said before, like we're going to talk about it later on, but there are other options as of soy product that would give you protein, but most of them have more carbs than protein. So if you're trying to increase your protein target without increasing your carbs target, then they won't be a good option, but those one will be for sure. When we're talking about seeds, hemp seed, pumpkin, chia seed, flax seed, sesame seed, those are really good options, full of micronutrient, full of fiber. And then when we're talking about meat, I would recommend strongly chicken, turkey, and pork, which are leaner option. Beef is still a really good option. It's just going to be higher in fat. So in a day that you don't want to bust your fat target and you're still pretty close, then you would be better to stick with chicken, turkey, or pork for this day. Carbohydrate. So now we're going to be talking about those other options. So carbohydrate, if you want to increase your carbohydrate to reach your target, then you're going to get a lot of them inside of fruits, and you're also going to get a lot of antioxidant, a lot of potassium, a lot of other micronutrient. With the grains, you're going to get a lot of fiber, and a lot of grain products also have a lower glycemia index. So if you're trying to lower your glycemia index, those could be a really good option. If you don't remember what the glycemia index is, I would refer to you to one of the first video we did in Nutrition 101, where I was talking a little bit about the amount of sugar in your bloodstream and high glycemia index versus low glycemia index. But just to put it really simply, food that have a low glycemia index means that they're going to increase the sugar in your bloodstream really, really slow, and they're going to stay for longer. So you're probably going to get a more stable glycemia with those products. And also beans. So there are the beans, fiber, magnesium, manganese, a lot of micronutrient with them. This is more kind of the vegan option. But like I said, those one will be more there's going to be a higher content of carbohydrate versus protein with those. So fruit, any type of berries, oranges, plum, prunes, peaches, nectarine, banana, those are just example of fruits. Any other fruits that you want to add will usually be pretty rich in carbohydrate. Grains, so barley, quinoa, amaranth. So this is a gluten-free option. So if you're having trouble with digesting gluten, amaranth can be a really good option to get your fiber and your carbs in without getting the digestive issue. Oats, bulgur, and wild rice. So other type of grain can do as well. Those are just kind of the superfood, the best option you can have for carbs, fiber, and micronutrient altogether. Beans, so chickpeas, lentil, peas, kidney beans, black beans, those would be a really good option for a lot of micronutrient, but also helping you with your carbs. And there's also going to have a little bit of protein with them. So that's just a nice way to get a couple more grams of protein while you're reaching your carbohydrate target. Let's talk about fat. So the fat target, I have to say, is probably one of the easiest one to reach, I feel. I feel a lot of us, even though we're having a really healthy diet, fats are pretty much everywhere. Like when you're eating any type of meat, when you're not going full vegan, it's usually pretty easy to reach your fat target. But if you're having a little bit of trouble with it, I'm just going to show you a couple options that you could be adding into your diet. So avocado, okay? Nuts and seeds. So all type of nuts will be full of good fat like avocado. So we're not looking into increasing the saturated or trans or bad fat intake inside of your diet. We're talking about good fat here. Okay, so avocado, nuts and seed full of good fat, but all of those nuts will also help you to increase as well your protein. So if you want to increase a little bit of your fat, you have a little bit of you don't actually have reached your protein, your calorie target yet, then that could be a good option. Something you have to be careful about with the fat superfood is that when you're consuming, let's say, 1 gram of protein and 1 gram of carbs, for 1 gram of each, you're going to get 4 calories. If you're consuming 1 gram of fat, then you're going to get 9 calories. So by consuming more fat, you're as well going to get more calories inside of your diet. So this is something you have to consider as well when you want to reach your macros, but you don't want to go too much over your calorie target as well. Okay. If you are trying to build muscle mass, then going over your calorie target might not be an issue. But if you're trying to lose weight, then we want to be careful with it. So almonds, pistachios, cashews. Walnuts, cashews are two of my favorite one personally, just because of magnesium, selenium in it, really good. Brazil nut is actually the nut that you will see have the most selenium content. Selenium, which helps with T3, T4 in your metabolism. If you haven't seen the video on metabolism yet, don't worry, it will come. But Brazil nut is really a good option if you are having hypothyroidism or if you're just having a slower metabolism. Dairy, so any type of cheese, yogurt, and milk. For sure, when you're talking about like yogurt and cheese, if you're taking a certain type of cheese and yogurt or milk that is reducing fat, then for sure you're going to get less fat into your diet. But usually that's still a pretty good option to kind of manage your macro. Eggs, but when I'm talking about eggs, I'm talking about the egg yolk. So if you're consuming white eggs, then you're not going to get the fat content. So the fat and cholesterol content is actually inside of the egg yolk. Let's talk about fiber. Okay, so I feel that after you've get your macros, your calorie right, fiber is usually the other thing that we're talking about. Fiber is actually part of the carbohydrate family, but I'm differentiated because it's different as just sugar. So carbs are sugar, but they are a different type of sugar, and that's why we're putting fiber into kind of an other category for this presentation. So all the beans, navy beans, azuki, red kidney, pinto, mung, black, those are the ones that contain the most fiber. So if you have trouble reaching your fiber target, so for women, it's usually 25 grams a day. If you're having trouble reaching that target, those would be really good option for you. Whole grain. So when you're talking about whole grain, so those good option with fiber, bulgur, kamut, barley, quinoa, whole wheat. So it could be pasta, it could be bread, and oatmeal, really good option for your fiber intake. Fruits and vegetable. So artichoke, kale, broccoli, carrots, and spinach. Spinach and broccoli, fun fact, they also have, depending on the measurement you're taking, but they also have a little bit of protein in it. So that's just a nice way to get more fiber and a little bit of protein. So I do really like adding spinach to my smoothies or broccoli to my meals because I just feel it's a nice way to kind of do both at the same time. Other thing that I like to do, so when we're talking about whole grain, there are different types. There are tons of types of granola bar that offers a more higher fiber option. So if you really want to make it easy, you just want to have more fiber, you just want to put it into your snack, I feel that's a really good option to just take a granola bar and then you already get 6 or 9 grams of fiber depending on your granola bar. So that would be also an easy option. What foods will help my hormones? So let's talk about this. So when we get to a state of premenopausal, menopausal, unfortunately, our hormones are just all over the place. And our estrogen level, actually, our estrogen production is really helpful in our body to prevent many things. And it helps also with the weight loss. And what happened is that when we get into that state, there are different changes in our body, different changes hormonally, different changes, and sometimes you can develop certain chronic disease. Sometimes it's just harder to lose weight. Other things happen as well, for sure. But what I want to give you is certain option of food that you can have inside of your diet that would help with those symptoms. So those foods are called phytoestrogen. And why are they called this way? It's because their chemical formula, so I just put kind of like the chemical formula here, is really similar to the chemical formula of estrogen. So by consuming them, you can have kind of a similar effect as if your body was producing more estrogen, okay? So it's not going to be exactly the same as if your body was still producing the same amount, but it's still going to be really good to kind of alleviate certain symptoms that you're going to be having. So phytoestrogen kind of foods are flax seeds, soybeans, soy nuts, a TVP that I talked about, tofu, soy milk, soy yogurt, tempeh, sesame seed, miso, soy protein powder, black beans, and hummus. As you can see, a lot of those products are actually derived from the soy protein, okay? And that's part of the reason. So the soy protein has a really closer chemical formula as the estrogen. So I have to say there has been a lot of studies as well on those phytoestrogen. And right now, what the research is telling us is that consuming a bigger amount of the phytoestrogen would not bring you more chances of cancer, more chances of breast cancer. When people started consuming those, there has been some issue. A lot of people were saying, what if it gave us like too many hormones? Would it be dangerous? There has been a lot of studies being done, and all of those studies basically told us that there was no dangerous effect of having a bigger consumption of those products. And certain studies actually found it could be a good preventative, so it could actually help not to develop like breast cancer. For sure, there's a lot of genetics, there's a lot of other things involved, but I just wanted to reassure you, if you're adding those food into your diet and someone kind of tells you, oh, you shouldn't be doing this for breast cancer or anything, there has been a lot of studies and it is really safe to add those into your diet, okay? And micronutrients. So let's talk about the micronutrients for performance. There has been another live training about it. If you want to have more micronutrient, more information on it, I would suggest you go watch it. I think when Nutrition 201. So go and watch it into the nutrition section. But we're going to be talking about magnesium, potassium, calcium, and vitamin D here. Okay, magnesium, really good for sleep, energy, recovery, but also just your metabolism. Okay, so that's why we're talking about magnesium. There's plenty of others reason why you should have a good magnesium amount inside of your diet, like preventing maybe like muscle cramps and all, but we're going to be talking about types of food that you could be adding that are really rich in magnesium. So dark chocolate, avocado, nuts, beans, tofu, seeds, and whole grains. Those are the products that you will find will have the most magnesium content. Potassium, so potassium really important for different things happening inside of your body, particularly when you're having the muscle contraction. So apricot, artichoke, banana, beans, beef, broccoli, beets, Brussels sprout, those are really good food that you can have with more potassium. Calcium is going to be really important for weight loss, but especially as we're getting older, calcium is going to be really important if we don't want to lose some bone density as we get older. So cheese, milk, yogurt, salmon, sardines, shrimp, and bok choy. If you're having trouble reaching your calcium intake, I would strongly recommend you get a calcium supplement, because sometimes it's hard to reach it, but this one is a really important one that you want to reach as for your target. And vitamin D, this one as well, if you're having trouble reaching it, go and find a good supplement, because when you're, depending on where you're living, if you're living more in the north hemisphere, vitamin D is something we're lacking a lot of, and it's really going to be important for you. So fish, beef, pork, chicken, mushroom, egg, milk, and yogurt. So that was just kind of like a certain resume, a good summary of all of the food you could be adding into your diet to reach your macros, your fiber, and also kind of helping with other hormonal symptoms you could be having. Like I said before, it doesn't mean that you have to follow this whole list. It doesn't mean that if you're eating something that is not on the list, it's not good for you. It was just to give you a kind of a certain guideline that if you are having trouble reaching your targets, what could you do? What could you eat to make it easier?